Hey business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta Sky Miles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta Sky Miles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the Riptide. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Ciao, homebrew community.
What's up, my homie brewers?
This is TC.
This is Big Mike, and you're listening to Brew Strong.
So Travis and Mike here again while Jamila is away. We have special guest Mufasa with us. If you had not caught our last shows with Mufasa, you should catch them as well. Mufasa, can you give us a short intro?
Yes, my name is Michael James Martin Ferguson. They call me Mufasa. I've brewed for 40 years, 35 professionally, and the rest just a little bit of home brewing.
Outstanding. Okay, so today's show, we are doing packaging. We don't have a special name for it yet. If it runs long, Mike's got a special name that will apply to it.
Secret. You gotta keep listening.
Absolutely. All right. So, Mike, I was bottling a little bit extra this week. I sent you some of those bottles of the Wet Lake hops, the Blue Lake, Michigan, Wet Chinook. Mufasa's had the beer. I brought it to the homebrew shop last Thursday, and I was absolutely enjoying my beer gun 2.0.
Heck yeah.
I had to think back, what was the 1.0? And it's not hugely different. They both have the exact same function, but it's nice to have that pistol grip on that 2.0. And I don't know if they have anything. I don't know if they have anything else planned for changing on that thing, but it's I would say it's my number one piece of Blickman gear, but my number one piece is actually my Anvil Foundry. I'm a big fan of those guys, just like they're a big fan of us. They keep sponsoring us. Drew's out there loving what we do is what I assume, because I think he's still paying Justin, because if he wasn't, Justin probably shut us down. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would say my favorite Blickman instrument that I've been using is always my beer gun. I think that thing is, I don't even think about using anything else to package beer with. So that's my go-to for everything. Even growlers, I fill it with my beer gun. So yeah.
So, Mufasa, did you ever have to use a beer gun? I mean,
oh yeah.
Have you? You bottled things since you went pro?
I have the early one, which works just fine.
OG, absolutely.
And I still have it. In fact, I just brought it to the shop today because I was thinking about bottling some stuff, that we have going. It's a great piece of equipment. When people ask me, well, how should I bottle? First thing that comes to mind is the Blickman beer gun, man. It's beautiful.
It works, absolutely. Yeah. It just so happens that is going to be a part of the topic of our show today. Blickman's always the topic of our shows as our sponsor, as our number one long-running best sponsor ever. Not our only sponsor, mind you, but they're all great sponsors. Blickman's just, they're up front. All right, so
innovating your brew day, Blickman Engineering.
Yes. They need to adopt that. Make the T-shirt something,
I know. That'd be so cool.
So, Mike, topic is packaging, and you especially felt that we should revisit packaging. Let everybody know what's in the past and what we're doing today, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, once upon a time, and if we had kind of a harp, we could. And it was 15 years ago. The originators of Brew Strong, Mr. John and Jamil, did a Package-gasm on packaging and bottling and kegging and all things to do with that. And so we thought 15 years is enough time. We need to go back and kind of tie some more loose ends and even introduce some new stuff, because it has been a decade and a half. So we're looking to advance the ball a little bit on the bottle front.
Outstanding. Yeah, and literally 15 years ago, by the time anyone who's not listening live listens to this, it will have been just over 15 years ago. That was April 2010, Mike.
Yes, I was April 2010. There were 3 shows. If you go back in the annals of the Brew Strong podcast lists, you'll find it, and it's a really useful listen. I mean, those guys really give you some good insights and just nail everything on that. So,
and get us started on that, Mike. Why don't you talk about, because when I think of packaging, I think of normally a narrower band than but the Package-gasm come for sure. Why don't you let us know how we're looking at packaging today?
All right. So packaging to me, and I like to get as simple as possible, is the process for taking your beer from its production point, the fermenter, to the point where you can enjoy it. And so I would say that any and everything in between that to get it to where you are now pulling it out of some sort of package to enjoy it is packaging. So,
which is more encompassing than it sounds. It's not just we filled the bottle, we capped it. It is a bit more than that. Yeah. You're opening my mind for me. I appreciate that because I'm so closed-minded. Just bottling.
Yeah, it's everything from the end of fermentation to the conditioning, the bottling or kegging or canning, and then to the enjoyment. So,
well, when I think of packaging myself, excuse me for interrupting, guys. I know you just started, but
it's all good.
I think in terms of quality, right? I want to be able to package something that when I drink it at the other end, it tastes just as good as when I packaged it. All right. And I think these are the points that we need to look at when you're going to send something off to competition, when you're going to just share it with friends, or if you're just like having a keg in your fridge and you're just enjoying it, you want it to be consistently good post packaging. And I think that is the main point of packaging, is to keep that quality.
And that's why it's more than just putting beer in a bottle and capping it.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Outstanding.
And I could even add the caveat, like a lot of people say the conditioning phase isn't packaging, but if you're putting it in the bottle it's going to be enjoyed from to condition, then it is. So that's why I was kind of adding it in there as
absolutely.
I mean, most homebrewers are putting it in the keg that they're going to be enjoying it out of. So you're essentially packaging it and then enjoying it out of that same keg. But there are a few of us who do bright tanks or they condition in the fermenter, but you can argue those are the exception, not the rule in home brewing.
In home brewing, yes, absolutely. And I mean, but think about Sierra Nevada. I mean, they've got a gigantic room where they just stick their pale ale in for 2 weeks before they send it out. And that's why it could be used on end displays instead of having to be refrigerated, which is what a lot of craft breweries have to deal with, trying to get refrigeration space. So packaging is a big deal. It can make or break a professional, and it could make or break the reputation of a home brewer. So packaging is one of the most important things when it comes to serving beer.
Not nearly as boring as I thought this show would be. Yeah, I know. I'm expecting great
beer, man.
Here.
Always exciting.
Always exciting. Absolutely.
Good beer is great. Great beer is outstanding. So we're going to package it well and get some great beer that comes out outstanding. All right.
It is a great thing when you can open that up and it's exactly how you packaged it or how you wanted it to come out. So, yeah.
If we're good with our definitions, I think it was outstanding. And Mufasa, I was going to ask you almost exactly what you told me. I didn't. I was going to ask you what your thoughts were, et cetera. That's great. So let's take a short break and we get into this.
Yes. See you on the other side.
We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Max. The HBO original comedy special, Gerard Carmichael, Don't Be Gay, is now streaming on Max. Emmy-winning comedian Gerard Carmichael returns to the stage in his boldest special yet, bringing his sharp wit, unfiltered honesty, and the kind of vulnerability that's made his voice truly one of a kind. Don't miss Gerard Carmichael, Don't Be Gay. Now streaming on Max.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on two gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back and we're talking about packaging. And if somehow you skipped 10 minutes because you think we bullshit for the first 10 minutes,
Welcome.
we are not resuming the Package-gasm. We are highlighting the Package-gasm and changes since then from 15 years ago. If you haven't listened to that, go back to 4/2010, or maybe listen to us first so you don't realize just how bad I suck at running this thing compared to how well those guys run the show. All right, Mike, you want to walk us through the process?
Yeah, I could start number one, and the guys on Brew Strong back in the day went over it pretty well. When is the beer ready to package is probably one of the key things you need to be ready to be certain of. You got to be able to say this beer is ready to go either into a bottle to be conditioned or a keg to be conditioned. And that is not as easy as some people might think. And there are different methods that brewers use. But I mean, and like I said, Jamil and John went over a lot of those. I mean, they actually kind of went off on tangents and were going all over the place on it. But I mean, I will just say, like in the new time here, there's some newer technologies that can help you track when things are done. But, pretty much, yeah, we got to figure out when's the beer's ready to package. So I was thinking we'd talk to Mufasa, see what he's got off the top.
Absolutely. One of the big things is attenuation, as far as I'm concerned. The reason why a lot of British beers have diacetyl in them is because they don't let the beer attenuate. They actually stop the fermentation, right?
Really?
And I learned this from the master brewer at Fuller's, and I was just shocked, but it explains a lot. Because under attenuated beer almost always leads to diacetyl.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that you need to know when the beer is finished, not just like you said, there's new technologies. You got the tilt for home brewers. And if depending on the size of your brewery, if you're a professional brewer, you're going to have a number of techniques to figure that out. But really, you should know where your beer is going to stop. If you made it correctly, you should know where it's supposed to stop. And if it's at those numbers, then you're good to go.
Yeah. So, Mike, you hit on that with the diacetyl, and to clarify, and maybe we expand on it a little bit. I usually think about diacetyl for lagers. Home brewers, we tend to run our fermentations longer than probably necessary. We hit on that at some point. Mike can dive into that for us. But you're specifically talking, British ales is what you typically find this in. Yeah. So these are pros that are pushing it and saying, okay, we're done. And you're getting that diacetyl left over. Not just lagers.
Not just lagers. And this is a situation of, everybody always thought diacetyl is very lager specific. It is not. You could get diacetyl for a number of reasons, but mostly under attenuation and not doing proper maintenance on the equipment and such, because there's also bacterial diacetyl, which you get a lot when you go into packaging, when you go into I won't name Yard House, but when you go into a place like that with all the taps going on, I have sent back beers so many times because it's a blessing and a curse that I am completely oversensitive to diacetyl. And bacterial diacetyl is something that forms in the lines, and it's you might have good beer at the keg, but by the time it comes to the glass, right, which is where the end of packaging takes place, it could be really bad. So for all you brewers at home that don't clean your lines regularly, clean your lines regularly. All right.
Yeah. I would just also say, too, that these diacetyl precursors and even just straight up diacetyl can be formed as a result of a large dry hop, too. I mean, there's a lot of research going on nowadays where they're actually quantifying hop creep and you can hear all about it all over the internet and podcasts out there that, the re-fermentation of a huge dry hop in a beer that might have a lot of dextrins or, other non-fermentable sugar, polysaccharides. You got to be aware of that too. So the other one I would say is if you end up with some diastaticus, kind of where it can enzymatically cut up those starches, stuff like that. That's more contamination stuff, but
Right.
big one,
that's part of it.
yeah. But the big update, I think, the big updates on compared to the 2010 podcast is that the hop creep. I think arrested fermentation. Some people are so all about gravity that they just crash when they've had 24 hours without a gravity change. And our instruments as homebrewers aren't very, very attuned to really catch small changes, which is at the end of fermentation. And a lot of these actual, the acetaldehyde removal and the diacetyl byproducts uptake happens without a gravity change. So I would say that you really want to give it an extra. I give it 72 hours where I'm not seeing any activity.
I give it 48.
Yeah, and sometimes that can take well over 16, 18 days of a fermentation to get to where I feel comfortable the beer is complete. So,
well, I think that's amazing that you take that sort of time because most people don't. And I feel that, professionally, it's much easier to deal with that, in a specific amount of time. But in homebrewing, I think that you need to wait. People have a tendency to be impatient, especially when they know they're waiting for beer, or if they didn't make enough, so they ran out of beer.
I can keg Saturday. I can't keg Sunday, so I got to keg Saturday.
Exactly. There's that. So you've got constraints and times. But the good thing is VDK, the precursor to diacetyl, is something that could be consumed nowadays. We have technology. We can make it better. All right.
About like ALDC or something.
I'm talking about ALDC, Brewzyme D. You could buy it at the homebrew level.
Yeah, I have ALDC. I've only had to use it on Strata. The first time I brewed with Strata, it was a Strata Smash, and through diacetyl. I got a 41 in the metal off that beer, so
so who's laughing now?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have given it a 41. I don't know what it competed against, but yeah, I got a 41 in the metal off that beer. But yeah, the Strata gave me a hop creep, and that is Mike. I'm very happy that you gave us this structure, and I'm trying to monitor your time on this if you want to go deep into hop creep or not. But yeah, so some hops throw it, some hops don't. But the larger the charge, the more likely you are to have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's definitely it's varietal specific. It's a little tricky though because it's also vintage specific. I mean, certain years and So if we're talking in a wine sense, that was my snooty voice. But
snooty,
back to some enzymatic products that can help you attenuate and finish your mopping up of those VDKs. They also have yeast now that are available for purchase that have been genetically, enhanced, if you will, to produce that. Yeah. To produce the ALDC enzyme. So it's you don't have to add anything to the beer. The yeast have it. They're built in. They get the features already.
About those.
Yeah. So I know Omega Yeast is doing that. I think. Unfortunately, many of those are still pro only sizes and availability, but I know that there's a couple that have been made available, and I know Omega is one of the brands, and I haven't tried it because simply my beer doesn't sit around long enough that I get any late onset diacetyl, or I'm pretty good at these, like I said, maturation rests and giving it what it needs to finish. I haven't had any, at least maybe, or on diacetyl.
I doubt that. I've had your beers. I think they're finished well. So what's interesting, and it's just kind of brings it full circle, Mufasa, is the ones that I've seen with this this ALDC kind of built into it are British ale yeast. Maybe it's a hint.
My head's spinning.
I had to, because they take the British ale yeast that we use for hazies that have been violized, and then they're throwing this on top of it. It's kind of all in the same strain. It's the same company that's doing the violized yeast is doing this this guaranteed no diacetyl style yeast. They don't say it that blatantly, but so they have whatever it takes inside of them to help you with the diacetyl, which I didn't think of it as, because I never think about shortening my beer if I can help it. I also have, my fermentation amazes me, honestly. It finishes so fast these days. I almost give it as much rest time as fermentation time. Between yeast health and zinc, it just rips through the ale so fast, it's almost scary. So I haven't had a problem, and I haven't tried these specific GMO yeasts, although I've fully been on board experimenting with other GMO yeasts for other purposes, such as flavor. So,
yeah. Well,
any of the above, does that any of the above, would that mean we would not want to do a diacetyl test for some reason, specifically for something like a lager where maybe we didn't give it a long enough lagering? I mean, do we think that's other than bacteria, which is the other half of that question?
I gave this quite a bit of thought the last day or two, and I think what I would do if I was concerned about it and I had a new yeast or a new recipe, or I was even new to home brewing, or new to kind of or I built a new brewery or something where I really in new waters, I might want to do some diacetyl tests early on to ensure that my product the beer is ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for those of you that don't know, a diacetyl test is pretty simple. You just take a sample, you gently heat it to about 150 F, 65 C with a cap on, and then you take the cap off and you try to smell it for popcorn or butter. Yeah. I mean, and if you need a reference, go microwave some popcorn and go, oh, okay, that's what we're looking for. Then
or just go to the store and buy some artificial butter flavoring.
Yes.
That's what we used to.
That's too, yeah.
Do our beers with. For
I do was sorry. I do side by side, one not heated. But Mufasa, last time I think we had you on, you mentioned a microwave test, or you told me about it. Throwing it in a microwave.
Right. You just, I mean, it doesn't even have to be covered. You just, although I'd like to cover it with like a piece of paper so that it doesn't volatilize off. And you just 10 seconds or so in the microwave, because you're only using a small amount. Pull the paper off top, and you could tell if there's diacetyl in there. It's very boom specific. It's
so for people who might be less inclined to know what it's supposed to smell like, and people who may not be as sensitive as I wasn't before I became overly sensitive, the side by side test capped would be recommended. So you could uncap it and smell them. Let them both be at the same temperature. But once you learn what it is, what Mufasa's saying, it's going to flash out. It's going to be there, and you'll catch that whiff. And what it means is give your beer some more time.
I always hate it when people catch a whiff. I didn't mean to.
Well, perhaps you shouldn't be crop dusting.
Right, I always done.
I'm doing diacetyl tests. I don't know what you're talking about, Mufasa. I got to keep the jokes going, man. I was listening to those old Brew Strongs. I went back through the anals, and I'm reinvigorated with humor. I'm going.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to keep that running. You going back to the anals.
Yes. Crawling up.
Whenever we do these updates, it'll be Mike goes through the anals of Brew Strong.
Or when we don't, you have to mention, no, we did not go through the anals for this one.
We didn't. we didn't have to.
Unfortunately.
So but yeah, that's kind of when is your beer done? And that's kind of a big one, because if you bottle or you keg this beer and it's not done, if you pizza when you're supposed to French fry, or if you French fry when you're supposed to pizza, you're gonna have a bad day, So it's like you're gonna have a bad day, and you're gonna be so pissed because now you've got 5 gallons of this beer. Every single bottle is gonna taste like this.
Yes.
And you're just down. It's going to ruin your month.
And if we didn't explain the diacetyl well enough to make sense for anyone listening, send in the Q&A and we will cover it. We always catch the new Q&As first.
I can get into the chemistry, but I figured we'll just kind of leave that for if you really want it. You got to put it in.
I mentioned BDK. He already went over my head.
Unfortunately, diacetyl, because I tell people that if you make bad beer, go ahead and distill it. But diacetyl is a survivable, and it carries on to the other end. I have smelt it in liquor.
So go ahead and make rum.
Yes, exactly. Also, unfortunately, diacetyl has been linked to Alzheimer's.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so that's
what's going on in England.
Wow, you went there.
I was going to say too, they do a lot of arrested fermentations in Czech lagers. A little fair bit of
They also use a ton of, well, I mean, I just think that anymore that most of your, if you go to around town here in Houston, I'd say 90% of the breweries are using LDC.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, it takes 10 days off your brewing schedule. Yeah.
Vinny said he was letting Pliny rest something like 45 days. I was astounded.
Smart.
45, like that beer, that kind of hops 45 days. I was like, anyone else, I would have called BS. Almost anyone else. I'd have believed you.
I have to take some tankage, but yeah. I like I said, with my hazies, big West Coast, I'm usually, before I even go to chill in my dry hop temp, I'm letting that go for 14, 15, 16 days. And then the dry hop I do a cold dry hop where I've already dropped the yeast. So I haven't experienced too much hop creep. I'm probably jinxing myself super hard right now. So
you'll get the certain level of kilning on your hops, and it'll happen one day, and you'll know that's the hop that
nail me, and I'll be like,
just for it. So we're talking about letting your beer do that diacetyl rest, so to speak, which even if we don't call it that slight maturation rest. And you had mentioned new technologies, Big Mike. So what is changed? Nothing's changed in 15 years. Come on, I mean, nothing's
just
changed.
send it. No, no. So I think in terms of hoppy beers, I think there's been a lot of work done on hop creep. I think there's been a lot of work done on dry hop timing and, things of that nature. But, in terms of the big ones, like Mufasa mentioned, gravity data loggers such as the Tilt or the Wrapped Pill I think it's from Kegland. I'm not sure, or at least Kegland has been pushing really hard. These are little devices that float in your fermenter, and they can Bluetooth to your phone or to an old phone, or I use a Raspberry Pi. It's a little more on the geeky side, but I think that's what really changed the game on me of like, this beer's still moving. Like I can see it day over day. I mean, if you were just watching the airlock, you'd think it was done, but I can tell that this thing is still going.
What data are you getting from these devices? And if you don't have experience with both of them, I think you have the Tilt.
I use a Tilt Pro because
I have a Tilt and a Wrap. So whatever you can't say about the Wrapped, I'll fill in at the back end.
Okay, yeah, because I've only talked to somebody who had a Wrapped and they liked it, but I have no experience. I did the Tilt Pro because of I had heard from a buddy that the regular Tilt can have issues at high Kreuzen, and it goes all nuts and doesn't really report correctly because it's being bounced around by the bubbles. But I've heard great things that they are also, just for what they are, they're perfect for, trying to figure out when the beer's done. And they're really accurate. I've got mine where at Knockout, they're within a point of a hydrometer. And then I'm probably closer.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm usually a little low at the end. So they read a little bit low, like 2 or 3 points low versus a hydrometer at FT.
Crazy on them.
Yeah, I think something's pushing down on them and kind of tilting them a little more than they should be. But at least they're giving you, so maybe if they're off, they're still reading the trend. And so you can tell if it's, trending down or trending up or trending flat.
Or done.
And they're tracking specific gravity and temperature.
Yes.
And so these things are reporting a temperature of the beer at the instrument, the little floater thing. Yes, I have floaters in my beer.
Right. So it's Bluetooth, and it's Bluetooth. You're doing it to a Raspberry Pi. Typically, it's Bluetooth to a phone.
Yeah, and actually, I think you were the one that I was like, darn it, I wasted all this time figuring out a Raspberry Pi when you're like, I just have an old cell phone, and it just sits there reporting all day.
Yeah, but your Raspberry Pi was probably cheaper than my old cell phone, although I am.
Yeah, I mean, but if you already had the old cell phone, you didn't have to go.
I did.
Yeah, so.
You want to be able to hook it to your Wi-Fi so you can check on it whenever you want. From wherever you want.
That's a key difference between the pill and the Tilt and the pill. The Tilt will be Bluetooth. To get it onto Wi-Fi, you connect it to either his Raspberry Pi or the phone, your phone, with the free phone app. From the free phone app, it will upload all the data there's a spreadsheet that they give you. You link to their being the gentleman who's developed all the Tilt stuff. It's like one guy. So you link to his back end, and he shares a brew sheet with you of all your data. That's the default. However, and I doubt Mike's using default. I'm not using default. I made my own custom sheet. I took the gentleman's, I wish I could remember his name. Just
Noah, I think.
Noah, yes, it's him.
Yeah.
So he gives you the code. You can put that code into your Google, whatever they're calling Drive, and
Google
it
Sheets.
run. Yes, it's all of that. It runs on Google. Now you have his back end that's running on your Google. You direct it to your own custom sheet. So my sheet's totally customized. Logging that data directly to my sheet. I'm no longer relying on Noah's data. I have Noah's code. It works. I rely on Noah's free app, and I bought the tilt, and I'm happy. And if James Gould, if you're listening, suck it.
I was gonna say, dude, you're like Pimp My Ride, or it's like Pimp My Tilt. You got all.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Well, you're Raspberry My Tilt. You know. So
so I did that, but I haven't modified the code or anything. It sends it to the, they send you that email, and then what I do is I modify his sheet.
Yeah.
And I just add a couple parameters I want to watch, but anyway, in the weeds, nerds.
So one of the differences between the tilt and the pill, I keep want to say wrapped is wrapped. So wrapped is the technology, and you're right, it's from Kegland. I don't think that they're borrowing it. I think wrapped is officially all Kegland, where tilt is all tilt, and it's Noah's whose last name now I can't remember. Both outstanding products, in my opinion. They're tools. You have to understand they're not fixing the world. They fix what they fix. They do what they do. There's an inaccuracy on the tilt at high corrosion potentially because you've got things on it. It's floating in your wort/beer with corrosion all around it. How accurate can it be? Especially as CO2 is rushing up. If you got good fermentation going, there's a lot going on in there. But that doesn't matter because you're watching the trend as it's coming down, and you want it to be as accurate as possible at the end. Well, I've found with my tilt, once corrosion falls, I'm going to read about 2 points low.
That's where I'm at. And
that's not a big deal because it's always about 2 points low.
Do you have the Pro as well?
No, I'm a regular Joe.
I guess the difference is the antenna's a little better and
yours is
heavier.
Larger.
It's heavier and larger, so it can.
Your unit's larger than mine.
Oh man, you
big Mike.
You said it. You said it, not me.
Good Lord.
So yes, I know I have the regular tilt, not the Tilt Pro, and I have the pill also. And I'll tell you why I have the pill. I have the wrap temperature controller. One of them I got from a raffle from a homebrew competition. I believe it was Operation Fermentation. And actually, I think I got the controller and the first pill, but I have two pills now because I calibrate one in lower temperatures, one in ale temperatures. But anyway, the wrapped controller can control off the temperature of the pill, which I like more than the temperature off of my thermal well, which is a little slower and so forth. And my experience, and if wrapped pill people listening, you can help me out. Tilt is more accurate on gravity, but I can control temperature off the pill. Sure, I could write a lot of code to do off tilt, but I don't have that kind of time and I don't have that kind of controller. The wrapped pill and the wrapped controller work together. They're Bluetooth, that Wi-Fi's, like your cell phone or your Raspberry Pi. Now, if you don't have the wrapped controller, the pill itself is Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
Very cool.
Battery life greatly reduced on the Wi-Fi, but you could have a pill and it goes straight to Wi-Fi. So if you don't have a Bluetooth device, it's always going. And for better or for worse, Wrapped has their back end that runs a spreadsheet on the internet. I have not customized mine. It's stock. But
so you pimp my tilt, not pimp my pill.
Didn't need to.
All right.
Feels pretty bad. The trend is nice. Nice. It's cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
So I love them both, and I brew with both of them every time. So I have more than one floaty in my beer. I have floaties in my beer.
Yeah.
Plural.
Okay. All right.
But our point in having them and why I like them is because they're directionally accurate and they can show you when you're having activity and when you're not having activity. So if you're going to start your 24-hour, 48-hour, 72-hour rest, you can see exactly when to start it.
Yeah.
I didn't, you're not really starting a rest, but you notice you haven't had any activity for 24 hours. Well, you started your rest 24 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a boon for me. Yeah. It moved my fermentation timing and confidence up pretty good.
Same. So. I dry off of my tilts.
Yeah.
And this is what technology has done for us. This sort of technology. Now, you're talking expenses and things like that. I mean, I still pretty much do all my stuff the old-fashioned way. I have no tilt.
And you make great beer.
I think I do. We'll have Pilsner there in about 2 months, so at the shop. So
Sure, I'll be by.
yes, I hope so.
I'll have it on a Thursday.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm still a lager lad, so I love my
homemade
lagers.
lager.
Yeah,
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's well done. So good. I was just gonna say too, one last oh man, it's slipping my head, but anyways. It wasn't
If
that
you like, it's
Did
a
it
good time
go?
to take a break while you think about that.
All right.
we didn't really touch on bottle conditioning, but yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah, we may or may not make. I'm not going to ruin Mike's special name for the show. Might be. we may or may not turn into that. We're going to come back to that. So let's take a break for just a few short minutes. Listen to all our great sponsors. Unless you're on some other publication, maybe get some other random sponsors. We are sponsored, so far as I know, by Things About Beer, not about things you should ask your doctor about. That's something totally separate. So give us a few seconds and
Don't talk to your doctor about beer. He'll guilt trip you.
Oh,
Mine
mine
knows
tries
better.
to do that all the time.
Mine knows better, thankfully. All right, we'll be back. Give us just a few. We'll be back.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Learning to brew has never been so disgusting. This is Brew Strong.
All right, and we're back, and we're talking about packaging, and I love how this is blooming into a lot about packaging, not just filling the bottle, which in my mind is always just filling the bottle, filling the keg. We were catching up on new technologies after covering forced diacetyl. If you jump 36 minutes ahead because you think we bullshit this much, oh man, we are not that bad. I'm not.
Yeah, you got to go back.
Yeah, rewind, catch that. I think we talked some good stuff. And did you remember, Mike, your thought on new technology?
No.
We come back.
Yeah.
I guess I could throw one last thing in there about things like fermenting under pressure and, some of the newer techniques that probably weren't thought of back in the annals of Brew Strong.
Okay, now I got to back us up there. I pressure fermented from the beginning of my professional career back in 1989.
Here we define the pressure, gentlemen.
Well, we used Barbie-Kuhner spunning devices, and I did not have a carb stone in any of my breweries until 18 years after I started brewing.
So as you started your fermentation, as you continued the bulk of your fermentation, though, I'd like you to tell me what pressure approximately you were under.
Okay, very little pressure through most of the fermentation, like 1 or 2 psi.
Okay.
And then at a degree Plato, or about
4 points.
4 points. Sorry.
4 points above terminal, I would cap it off and let it blow off at 14.7 psi.
So,
and 1 atmosphere, and that would carbonate everything. I even did that with ales. We just never had a need for a carb stone.
Ales at the beer, really?
Yeah. Wait a
Ales
minute.
at the beer.
Wait a minute. Remember my most award-winning beer, Hefeweizen. That's an ale.
Yeah. It is on the cooler side of ales, but it's definitely warmer than.
Suck it, Travis.
Yes. I
just
am not. I shall only suck my beer.
Good. This is a good.
Suck it
That's
down.
good. I'm very happy you said that.
No, that's so. I was going to say, just in terms of finishing the beer and when we're done, when we know we're done. I mean, there's different techniques there that weren't really talked about for home brewers, and now that we have the ability to spun, whatever you'd like to say, there's a lot of brewers doing that, like you said, where they shut the blow off and they have the ability, like with newer technology, fermenters and whatnot, where you can pressurize that vessel, and then you can almost begin that packaging process, I guess, if you will, in the fermenter with the natural carbonation from your fermentation. So that's another new technology I was kind of wanting to get in there. So,
well, I'm glad you did.
It's not new because obviously you said 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Homebrewers.
But it was
40 years
kind
ago.
of a newer homebrewer method.
New to homebrewers. Because Mike didn't invent it when Mufasa didn't invent it when Mufasa started it 40 years ago.
No.
It's ancient German tradition, correct?
Ancient German tradition, absolutely.
But it's not fermenting at 15 psi. It's fermenting at a couple, finishing.
Right. And this is where a lot of people are doing it at high pressure. Pressure kills yeast. So I think that if you're doing it at high pressure, you're going to force yourself into yeast autolyzation sooner than later. And I kind of caution people not to use, full pressure when they're doing it. They say that it goes faster and it's all this other stuff, but
cleaner,
et cetera, et cetera. Put it in their garage at 100 degrees. And they spun it.
The big one is cleaner. I mean, the advertisement has been you can ferment warmer at under pressure for cleaner. This is totally off of the packaging page. By the way,
well, it's finished. We're still talking about.
I'm with Mufasa. I'm with Mufasa. CO2 is a poison to yeast.
Yep,
and literally
that's why it's literally they're evacuating it from their cytoplasm. So you do not want that. I want happy, healthy yeast. I want yeast. They're kind of like dancing in there. They're like, we're making beer.
Within reason, because alcohol's a poison also, but tough shit.
Facts.
We're making alcohol.
Well, alcohol will eventually kill the yeast, but such a wonderful thing.
Such a wonderful thing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's still packaging because a lot of people now are spunding keg conditioning and doing that. Mm-hmm. The smarter ones are actually transferring off with the floating, dip tube. And this leaves all the crap behind, so you're not sucking up dead yeast on your first couple of pours, or have the dead yeast still in your keg, causing meat flavors from autolyzation. So I think that it's a new technology. I think it's a misunderstood technology as far as homebrewers are concerned. And even with the new, with a lot of people doing it professionally now, I don't believe they're doing it correctly, but that's just me.
Well, I don't really know how to spun because I haven't read Reddit yet.
We're not.
Wow.
We're not. I'm not.
Sorry. So spawning really does tie in great. Thank you for bringing it up, Mike, and all the flavor on it, Mufasa. Because if you're going to package post spunding, now you have a pressurized beer. If you're going to spun too soon, you won't have a finished beer,
right?
Necessarily, because you're doing that artificial clamping of the beer. So so the spunding technologies that are out there, they are nice and they are neat, and they're really popular with people who are doing hazies and who are doing heavy dry hop and want to try to keep any flash off from happening during that dry hop. And Mufasa, I don't know if there's a better guideline than predict when your beer should be 4 points from done, and that's when you can start cranking the pressure up. It's a great time for your first dry hop,
right?
And crank the pressure up, and then if that's your goal, I think you're accomplishing it.
Keep in mind, disclaimer, you've got to have a vessel that can handle being pressurized. Yes. Don't take your glass carboy and shove your CO2 tank on there.
Well, you'll find out.
Fill her up.
Well, you'll find out.
You'll find out.
That's a Darwin effect, right?
I guess.
It's like, this is why they put do not microwave pets in your microwave as a caution on the microwave itself, because there are people.
It was my neighbor's pet. Anyway.
Oh, dang. Got him.
No. Yes. Just most of the spunding devices, actually, Mike, I know some of your equipment is Spike, and Spike makes actually very nice spunding equipment.
They do,
designed for their fermenters.
Yeah, but I didn't buy it.
Don't try to pressurize your glass containers. Your plastic containers will take it better, but it's still not a good idea. And trying not to make it a commentary on fermenting under 15 psi the whole way, but I don't think that's the best concept to make great beer.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll just say from my experience of, I had this equipment that I was trying to basically cold crash Guardian thing that was a bag and I pretty much figured out it was slightly pressurizing my vessel. And just with that slight, I mean, we're talking 3 to 5 psi, it lowered my apparent attenuation 5 to 10 percentage points. So you can get your beers drier. You can push the yeast further. You can get more alcohol, cleaner beers, if you will, by just having a nice wide open throttle on your blow off. I was going to say with the spooning valve, I was able to basically make one using a stainless 1/4-inch NPT cross. And so one has the pressure relief valve that's like $5 on more beer. You've got a pressure gauge on the top, and then I had a gas ball lock on the last side. Oh, and then the bottom was a tri-clamp. So that little thing is what I use. Yeah.
Remind me to ask Jeff if more beer is still sponsoring us.
Oh, yeah. They better. Just kidding. Do whatever you want.
Entirely joking.
Yeah, we're cool. Yeah, so I really think we've beat the hell out of when is your beer done? What do you think?
No, and more important, I was thinking that was great. The new tech. This was the new technology zone of the when's your beer done. So I like that. Yeah, thanks.
I think we moved. We did the annals of Brew Strong good and left him feeling a little more clean.
Mike, the animal of the anals.
Open wide for Chunky.
We're washing them out. We're making sure that there's nothing left on the bone or something.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
With that,
yes. Bottle conditioning. Should we touch on that briefly?
I think then we go from new technology to one of the most classic of home brewing techniques. Bottle condition.
Bottle conditioning is not just great for home brewing. It was also great for competition professionally, because pre-Blickman beer gun, you had these really awkward counter pressure bottle fillers where you had to like hold it down onto the bottle and have 3 valves. So you needed a third hand.
You'd have 5 hands.
Yes, it was awful, and it never quite worked right, and it was just disgusting. So bottle conditioning was one of the things that I honestly in that 25-year-old article, it was one of the things I alluded to, because have you ever really tasted a bad Sierra Nevada pale ale?
Nope.
Right. And displays, no refrigeration, the whole bit. Bottle conditioning is something that will really bring your beer home. Now, if you do bottle conditioning, you should keep a library so that you could check how those bottles age. I wouldn't suggest you just send out stuff without having tried it, because you conditioned it for a certain amount of time and then didn't have a library to check and see if the stuff is good, right? And there's always a chance of having a bad bottle or two. And canned conditioning should work the same way. You just have to watch out for the more acidic sort of beers that could eat through linings in a can. There are special cans that take low pH stuff, and you have to be careful with that.
That's a great point, Mufasa. And I had that question, and Mike might know, because Mike does can at home. I know at some point in time the cans turned to plastic lined.
Yep.
Well, that was kind of the revolution of beer can, is like so much of in like the way early days when it was a tin can and your beer tasted like steel or metallic AF. When they finally developed that plastic liner in there and separated the beer from the metal or steel or tin or aluminum or whatever they're doing, you could get glass quality beer in an aluminum can. But this time now you've got a hermetic seal and you have 0 light penetration. So it actually became, I would argue, a better package for.
Well, yeah.
Beer.
It's the keg of hand packaging. Yes.
Right.
And I had a friend that loved Heineken, but he only drank it out of green bottles because, like most of America, he had no concept of what beer spoilage was. And but
I'd
when
say
he drank it,
don't either. But anyway, they're the ones that put it in that green bottle to start with.
Well, there's a long story behind that, and it has to do with exporting bottles that you don't get back, et cetera, et cetera. But that also caused a whole lot of other people to use green bottles and package incorrectly. So this is one of the things in packaging that's one of my soapbox things, and that is skunky beer. I hate it, and I think cans have mostly gotten rid of that. Okay, I mean, you shouldn't be getting any light penetration from that, blue wavelength or otherwise, but people are still using bottles, and amber bottles still pass light. And what is every beer cooler in every store across America lined with fluorescent light
LEDs?
tubes. No, the LEDs is just what smart ones are doing.
Okay.
The fluorescent lighting is just almost as bad as the sun. And that's what a lot of your beer coolers still have in them is fluorescent lights. Now, if you do get the LED lights, you need to make sure you get the LED lights without the blue wavelength.
Right. And I would
But they make a sleeve to filter that out if you're really serious about it.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would also just with skunk, as they say, it's kind of, they call it light struck or whatever. You can still develop those flavors without light, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It's much more difficult.
Yeah, it's a thiol, by the way.
Yeah.
You know,
Not
or
thiol.
Yeah.
It's not surprised it's a sulfur compound. Not surprised at all.
Yeah. So I mean, methanol thiol, which can best be found in the scent sac of a skunk. So,
oh, literally.
I got to do my paper review.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, indeed.
So bottle and can conditioning, other than the fact that we have cans, any new developments on that? Anything different about bottle conditioning?
I would say the prevalence of very accurate calculators online.
Okay.
I don't know. I
better measurements of
listening to the previous
contents.
Yeah, kind of really get you really close. As Mufasa was talking about libraries of the bottles and stuff, I think with any part of your brewing process, I am so pro write it down. Or what I do is I have spreadsheets. I'm an engineer. I use Excel for all day. So I'm logging how much I used, how much I did, what time did I try it, what day was it, and so that way you can, if maybe this beer you were a little off, the next one will be that much closer. And the next one will be even closer than that. And so the bracketing of this bottle conditioning stuff is so important. And I would say the calculators have now, the models are getting better and better at getting you closer to what, you can expect. I would say with can conditioning, be very careful. Cans are not designed to hold a ton of pressure. So, they have the old adage of a bottle throwing a cap blowing off. At least it just goes one way. With a can, that's a little frag grenade.
Yeah.
Really?
When it blows up. So
do we have a concept of how many volumes a can handle?
No, we don't, because it has also to do with the lining. Remember the old sour puree beers that were a fad?
Yeah, those became backseat bombs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because with the high acidity, those cans weren't designed to take that sort of acidity. And
do you think those were not lined cans? You think
no, they were lined.
Was selling but not the right liner.
Right. So the cans that were coming out of Hawaii that burnt down there and during the volcanic eruption that they had there in the big fire, unfortunately, they were rated for a whole year with pHs below 3.6. Most of the cans that people get for beer do not have that range. And it will eventually eat through, especially where the seam is at the top. So most of your ruptures are going to happen right at that seam.
Okay. But that makes sense. I mean, you crimp that top on, you could easily rupture that liner, whatever that liner material is.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's just, you got to be careful with cans in a number of ways. Nothing's going to beat the old cell count thing, because to do it accurately, what you really want to do is get as much yeast out of it as you can and re-inject yeast for and the sugar. Now, when it comes to, and this is something that a lot of homebrewers do not do, I like to use wort as my sugar.
Similar to Kreuzen, but not
a German word.
Yes.
If you don't use Kreuzen, it's called like Spitzer.
It's not Spitzer. Yeah.
Spitzer, yeah. Where
I was going to ask you to say Spunding, but I didn't want to go too German on this.
So that one's really cool. I've always wanted to try that, where if you really wanted to go Reinheitsgebot and take a little bit of your wort when you're done brewing and put it off to the side. And that's your pitching sugar. And
yes, and that's what I use.
Cool.
Yeah.
And again, I think kind of leading
you can double up on that. Depending on where you pull it off, depending on where you pull that wort off, you can. Yeah, you go. I'm not talking about pulling worts off any women's, but anyway, depending on where you pull off the stream, you can find. There you go. You can find out if you have a problem with your stream, because if you pull pure wort, you can find an infection.
Yes.
Now, if you pull it out of a hot kettle, you're not going to find an infection. But if you pull it right before fermenter, you do. There's a name for that test. So if you pulled it chilled right before you ferment, or you're testing the purity of your wort and your transfer, and you're also saving that wort to put back in for your packaging and natural carbonation later on.
I use hot wort.
Well, that's the safest.
Yeah, I use hot wort.
I can see what he's saying, though. It's a contamination test, if you will.
Well, so Jamil had a rack where every batch they'd pull off about. I'll tell the story briefly because we're going long. We're going to end up being at least 1.5 shows here. They would always pull a side valve off as they transferred to their fermenter in a sanitary bag, put on a rack. Sanitary bag, I don't really know what that word means, but the bag was sanitary. Well, the interesting story was it's the type of ball valve that I can't, a little 1/2-inch ball valve I can't stand is those 3-piece ball valves with all the nuts and extra jangles around them. And they never really got them clean enough. So they thought they had an issue. The issue was the valve. The issue wasn't the work. The issue wasn't the transfer to the fermenter. The fermenter was getting
the valve was inoculating everything.
The valve was inoculating things.
You really want to use the 2-piece, or I would say butterfly, like what do they call those?
If it's not hot, I use the butterfly tri-clamp.
The sanitary butterflies that are designed to not have those kind of crevices.
I think tri-clamp is the brand. Yeah. All right. So let's take a break and continue, and we'll finish up. We'll figure out when we're going to finish up. I think we're going to be a show and a half on this easy. And we need at least one more break. So somebody say something funnier than I've been saying.
I mean, you were talking about nuts jingling. I don't know what that was all about. Can I get a comment?
Jingling nuts on the valve. Those 3-piece valves, they have so many parts. It's got this 4-bolt system that clamps the body.
Yeah.
I work in heavy industry like you do, Mike, and I don't deal with valves as complex as that 3-piece ball valve. It's just anyway.
No, so, I think even our knife gates and stuff don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, family jewels do jingle, so there you go.
Yeah, you want your
mine aren't that loose yet. They're getting there. All right, we take a break. We're right back with more great stuff and a little bit of my personal ignorance. You're welcome.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
All right, and we're back in. This is a package show that's going to become a name that I think Mike's going to wait all the way.
They waited till the end. They waited patiently, the fans of Brew Strong. So we've been through the annals, and you know that in 2010 they called it the Package-gasm. Well, I think we need to have a sequel. So that one was Package-gasm, a new brew. This one's going to be Package-gasm, the Emily Capper Strikes Back.
Emily Capper Strikes Back.
I like it.
All right.
Perhaps.
And we're going to do, Brewgasm 2, people. Yeah. We're going multiple shows. As Jamil said, we're taking as long as it takes.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
So this is our last segment on this show. And where we were at, we were talking about bottle/can conditioning. And did we want to hit, is this time to hit can conditioning, or do we have that further down?
Well, I was going to finish up a little bit of bottle conditioning on
certainly.
We could maybe for the last 5-10 minutes, we can just get into one of the big things I noticed on the 2010 show was they didn't really speak to certain styles of beer that might either be benefited by bottle conditioning or hurt by bottle conditioning. And so for me, I've always really loved bottle conditioning Weiss beer wheat beers, anything where you need to capture that very, very specific haze you're looking for and be able to, reanimate it in the bottle before you serve it. And so much of what happens with keg Hefeweizens is the haze drops in the keg and you're flipping a keg upside down, trying to get it back. And it's just, I think, and then I would also say that you can go to those high volumes of CO2 in that bottle with the bottle conditioning and really get that correct to style spritzy Hefeweizen.
Are you targeting that high and a half?
Well,
like 3.2 volumes.
And so with a keg, that's going to have pouring issue. You're going to have it's going to be a pain in the ass to pour that out of a keg through a faucet. So to have that in a bottle,
line, 12-foot line, you make it.
Yeah, you got to have these. Yeah, you got to snap you out of fresh
and all kind of stuff. Yeah.
And you got to have all kinds of, as Jamil said, that was a Jamil reference. You guys would get it, but
so we use the adjustable taps for that.
Well, see, that has a huge pressure drop across the valve. What are you doing? You're flashing the beer across.
Absolutely, but also makes for a good head. But
yeah, Brew Strong and good head go together.
Go together, absolutely. But I did pretty much keep the Hefeweizen right about the same as everything else, right about 1 bar. So we really didn't have a real issue with that. If you have proper constriction, that's what those valves are for. That's just to reduce constriction. But if you've put your lines in correctly, then you're going to have 10, 12, maybe 20, even 20 feet, depending on how long the run is, of constriction of 3/16. So that will always help moderate what you're pouring. Remember, in Germany, when they pour a beer, it's a 7-minute pour if it's made correctly. Okay.
Well, they're pouring before you need your beer. They know you need your beer.
They got 10 beers up there going. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, they're outstanding. So that's one of my favorite things about drinking in Germany is they always have my next one pouring.
Yep.
But so you like to bottle condition your house with a traditional Hefe?
Yeah, I've done a couple like kind of real special editions where I did some bombers that I really wanted to like capture, not just the big one for me was getting that haze, and I could reanimate the haze, and I didn't have to flip kegs upside down or try to keep things, animated. Like
you just roll the bottle a bit and off you go.
Yeah, just swoosh and then poop. You're right back to where you started, and then that style plays well, like with I said the high carbonation. But there also are certain styles that you really don't want to mess around with bottle conditioning, and the big one for me is. And it's funny because they're both hazy. I would say hazy IPA is a style you do not want to bottle condition just because the oxygen sensitivity of a hazy IPA is to the point where that bottling flat without a CO2 blanket or any kind of isolation from the atmosphere is going to spoil that beer, or at least dull it and kind of take the edge off of that beautiful thing you work so hard to make. So I would not recommend, and if you guys have other styles, I'm all ears, but that was the one that really,
the main one.
Yeah,
that's the main one. And I always considered hazies a bit like a Beaujolais Nouveau, which is designed to be consumed immediately. Right. I find that even some of the best hazies don't keep their best conditioning after a couple of months.
Yeah, right. I think some of that's packaging, but not all of it's packaging, because I've had only a couple breweries where they can package a hazy and I can have it 3 months later and it can be outstanding. And that's very rare.
Yes.
So I was hoping that you guys would give me a bone, because I remember when I first started home brewing, obviously I was bottle conditioning and those beers were crap. And I wanted to blame it on the bottle conditioning. You haven't given me shit on that. It was just me. I was making shitty beer.
No, I mean, that
was 15 years ago or so. But
bottle conditioning, I would say, if you're doing beers that are hoppy in any way, bottle conditioning where you're making your sugar syrup and you're mixing it into the bottling bucket and you're pouring out into the bucket and then you're filling it, that is like so much oxygen, and hoppy beers are going to be just poof, they just disappear. And
actually,
I would agree with you, because I was doing that with my IPAs, and like when I'm pouring it in the bottling bucket, I've got this floral bouquet of all this aroma, and then when I go to open my bottle at the end of the conditioning period, it's like, where did my beer go? and it was sad.
The first tasty beer I bottled was actually probably my first IPA, where I was having issues. My first few were Belgians, because back then I drank Belgians. But I think it was the 74-degree closet that was making the beer not so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not having temperature control and not making sure it finishes out because it's still 74 degrees. As you said.
Nobody likes sweaty Belgians.
There's probably a lot of women who are married to them.
Well, for those of you who don't know, my last name is Belgian. I have a very, very nice Belgian ancestry. And it's Dutch Belgian, the Flemish. So when I said that, when I'm sweaty, nobody wants to be around me. You sweaty Belgian.
We love you. We love you, Big Mike.
Not when I'm sweaty.
All right. I got to tell you, Belgium was one of my favorite places to visit. Just to live.
I love it.
It's on my top of my list if I ever go to continental Europe. I'm doing that's the first stop is
you will, and you'll get plenty of advice from fellows like Mufasa and I.
All right.
And it won't be as conflicting as you think. It won't be as conflicting as IPA advice.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. So I think we're at a good spot to break off the first show. And because this is going to be at least a 1.5, if not a full 2.0. We'll fill in the rest of the next one if we need to. I don't think we're going to need to, because I think we're doing great going through this wonderful outline Big Mike has built for us here.
Yeah, Package-gasm 2.
Yes.
Or no, it's not revenge. It's the Emily Capper Strikes Back.
Emily Capper Strikes Back. Love that. She's also a woman evidently, but we're talking about the Capper.
We're talking about the Capper, yes.
I am your beer.
I should have mentioned that we are live on Facebook, and we will be live for the next show also. These videos will stay on Facebook these days. Only 30 days. Facebook's new rule. They'll pull the video down. Not to worry. The video will end up on YouTube, whether you like it or not. And JP will edit the audio and put out the podcast. Those happen at about the same time, best I can tell. And our next show, if we finish up packaging, we'll move on to Q&A. And in any case, we have a mandate to finish all of the questions. It's been stated that's what must be done, and we answer the new ones first. I had some special stuff lined up for tonight that no big deal. We'll roll it to the next set of shows. Maybe we'll do it. No.
There's a couple of good questions there. I wouldn't mind answering.
So if we could get off our lazy butts and finish the show, midway through the next one, we can answer those. So anyway, everybody, thanks for coming. And don't forget about our sponsors. Number one being Blickman Engineering and their Anvil Brewing line. All of the above are outstanding products, and all the rest of our sponsors. It's up to you if you want to give any sponsors to the YouTube insertions, that Back to the Magazine stuff. Is that right, Mufasa? It's like Back to the Magazine.
The Back to the Magazine stuff, yes.
Yeah, that's your call. If you need the 3D glasses, I'm sure that ad's going to come up. Some other things like that. Don't forget to go to Brewing Network's website. Justin still has a site. He's got it linked now. He's got one of those things where they custom make your shirts. Should you want a Brewing Network type shirt, I think it goes through that kind of thing where they print it on demand.
Yes.
We're here. We love you guys. We are Brewing Strong.
Hell yeah, man. Till next time, brew strong.
Brew strong, my brothers.
Oh, Mufasa killed it.